Goeiemôre vriende, en ons dank Vader vir nog 'n heerlike dag wat hy vir ons gemaak het. 'n Dag waarin ons kan lewe en kan werk en kan dink aan hom, terwyl ons besig is met ons daaglikse take. We continue session 40, Genesis 21, verse 19 to 34. So yesterday we looked at how Sarah and Abraham sent Hagar away. And today we continued. Now Hagar and Ishmael is in the wilderness. And Yahuwah opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the bottle with water and gave the lad to drink. And this just reminds me, we spent so much time with Yeshua and the woman at the well, Jacob's well, remember? And this is just very similar for me, that Yahuwah opened her eyes and she saw a well of water. And that basically saved her and Ishmael's lives. And it's very similar to the story where Yeshua opened the Samaritan woman's eyes to see that he is the living waters. She was also, remember the Samaritans, we discussed how that were the mixed seed, the mixed doctrines. And here we have an Egyptian woman also with mixed religion. And Yahuwah opened her eyes and she saw a well of water. And the water saved her and Ishmael's lives. Genesis 21 verse 20. And Yahuwah was with the lad, with Ishmael. And he grew and he dwelt in the wilderness and he became an archer. It's interesting. From the beginning we can see that Abel was a gentle man and Cain was a wild man. And we know that Jacob was a gentle man and Esau was a wild man. And here we see the same. Isaac, we'll deal with Isaac just now. He was a gentle man. But Ishmael was a wild man. He lived in the wilderness and he became an archer. Very interesting. You can see generation after generation after generation, the difference between the two brothers, the two seed lines. Very interesting. Genesis 21:21. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. So Hagar was from Egypt, and now they're falling back on Egypt. Instead of mixing with the seed from the people that believes like Abraham, they go back to Egypt. So this is where his mother comes from. And we've dealt with this. We know that Egypt represents sin, non-pure, non-genuine seed, not the seed from the tree of life, but mixed seed, mixed religion, and sin and bondage. That's all, everything that Egypt represents, that Hagar and Ishmael represents. And here they confirm that by getting a wife out of Egypt again. So both Ishmael's mother and his wife is from Egypt. Both the mother of the nation, like Sarah is the mother of the nation of Israel. So Hagar is the mother of the nation of the rest of the non-pure races, the non-pure doctrines, the non-pure religions. So both the mother of this nation and the bride of this nation is from mixed seed. And that's in direct opposition to the promised seed through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and through their wives. So now we read Genesis 21, verse 22 to 23, and further on all the way to, we'll see where we get. This is all about the treaty with Abimelech. And it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and his chief captain of hosts spoke unto Abram, saying, God is with you in all that you do. Can you see that how Abram lived and the decisions he made and the way that Yahuwah blessed him? The nations, the pagan nations around them could see that Yahuwah is with him. He was standing out. He was keeping the commandments of Yahuwah. He was keeping the feasts of Yahuwah. He circumcised him and his sons because of the covenant with Yahuwah. And he lived in a beautiful way, not only physically obedient to the commandments, but his character was being shaped to this God whom he was obeying. And the nations around him could see that. And they said, listen, we know that God is with you in all that you do. Now therefore swear unto me by your God, that you will not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's sons. But according to the kindness that I have done unto you, you shall do unto me, and to the land wherein you sojourn, wherein you stay. Remember, Abimelech was the king that wanted to take Sarah as wife. And he ended up heeding Yahuwah's warning to give her back to Abram. And remember, he ended up sending Abram away with lots and lots of gifts, and he made him quite rich. And Abimelech understood that this God of Abram is the real and the only Almighty God, because he got scared when God warned him that him and his whole nation will be cursed. Their wombs were closed, remember? And only when Abimelech obeyed the warning of God did Yahuwah heal him and his nation. And I said to you that I don't understand why this king and why this nation didn't then turn to the God of Abraham. So verse 24 says, and Abram said to Abimelech, I will swear. So it's always difficult to make a decision without consulting with Yahuwah. Especially like Abram, who had a constant conversation line open with Yahuwah. Because the Bible does warn us that we should not make covenants with non-believers. And because what Abraham did not know, what was going to happen with Abimelech in the future, I'm not sure if he even consulted with Yahuwah before he decided to make this treaty, and before he decided to swear to Abimelech that he will not deal falsely with him, and that he will, sign a peace treaty with him. Because although from Abram's side, he actually he honored that treaty, but we'll see. I mean, the Philistines were the nation of Abimelech, and the Philistines have always, if you read the whole Old Testament, from the time of Israel coming back out of Egypt, all the way down to David, the Philistines have always been a huge enemy. So although Abimelech and Abram signed a peace treaty, Abram kept it, but not Abimelech and his son and his son's sons. Although he made Abram swear, he did not keep his side. We know how the Philistines tried to ruin Israel throughout history. So let's look at where Abimelech comes into play again in Genesis 26. This is in the time of Isaac. And there was a famine in the land, and Isaac went and stayed in Gerar. Remember, Abimelech was king of Gerar. And Isaac, just like his father, said his wife is his sister, because just like his father, he was afraid that they would kill him because his wife was so beautiful. So Abimelech quickly rectified this, if you read Genesis 26, because he remembered very well what Yahuwah's warnings were, and he did not want to take a chance of getting into the bad books of the God of Isaac, because he remembered what happened in the time of Abram and his wife. So we see Abimelech with the whole wife problem of our forefathers in the time of Abram. We've read that a couple of sessions ago, and here in Genesis 26 we see exactly the same thing happening again in the life of Isaac. Okay, let's go back to Genesis 21, verse 25. And Abram reproved Abimelech because of a well of water, which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. But Abimelech said, I do not know about this thing. You didn't tell me, and neither have I heard about it unto today. So Abimelech just said, well, he's sorry, he didn't know about it. But Abimelech's servants have taken the well that Abram have dug. They've taken it away violently. So here we see that although Abram was willing to sign a treaty with Abimelech, there was already a problem with water. Because Abimelech's servants, the Philistines, has taken the well away with violence. Now you must keep in mind they didn't have machinery or drills or borehole drilling machines or nothing. So to dig a well in the wilderness, in the desert, manually, was extremely hard work and takes many weeks and a lot of man hours and labor and effort in the sun. And then you can only be hopeful that you're digging in the right place and that you will indeed find water. So to have that taken away is not fair at all. It's not nice at all. So to work that hard to dig a well and then having it taken away, so that's why Abraham reproved Abimelech, because his servants have taken his well away. But not only did Abimelech's servants take Abraham's well away, can you believe, just like with the wife problem, here we have a water problem, because they did exactly the same with Isaac. Genesis 26:18. And Isaac digged again the wells of water, which they have dug in the days of Abraham his father. For the Philistines have stopped them after the death of Abraham. And he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. So you can see here, Abraham made a lot of effort to dig a couple of wells. He even called each one of them by a name. Every well he dug, he called by a name. And then already we had the problem in Abraham's day that the servants of Abimelech have taken the wells away violently. And then after Abraham's death, the Philistines were so spiteful that they filled up these wells again. And now here in Genesis 26, Isaac is digging up these wells again. It's a lot of work. It's not easy in the desert to do this kind of work. Genesis 26:19, and Isaac's servants digged in the valley and found there a well of springing water. And the herdsmen of Gerar, now remember Gerar, it's the Philistines, it's Abimelech's area. Now the herdsmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, the water is ours. They're claiming the well that Isaac has dug up again. So Isaac called the name of the well Izak, because they strove with him there. How dare they? How dare they stop the wells? They filled it with sand. I mean, water is your only way to survive in the desert. How dare they stop it with sand, these wells that Abraham have dug and that Isaac is now digging again? And now that Isaac went through all the labor and effort and hard work to dig them up again, how dare they come and say that it is theirs? I mean, Abimelech signed a treaty with Abraham. Abimelech gave him the land. It is not theirs. What was the treaty for that Abimelech signed with Abraham? If they just continuously come and claim everything with violence, they're like parasites. They typically the seed of the serpent. They let you toil in the sun, and then they come and they just take it away. Just like Satan, like Yeshua described when the sower of the seed spreads the seed, and then the seed that falls into the thorns is then consumed by the thorns. And Yeshua explains that is like Satan, who just comes and steals the seed away, and he drowns out the seed, and he corrupts the seed. And like the birds that come and they eat the seed, this is how Satan comes and takes the seed away. He's a parasite. He's a consumer. Wherever he goes, he's just consuming. He's like a lion walking to and fro on the earth, looking for what he can consume and destroy. But that is typical, taking away the water. That is typical, the kind of people with the seed of the serpent in them. They always want to take what they did not work for. So this happened twice with Isaac. But here I want to just explain to you the difference between the Philistines and Israel, because we saw already the character, the type of character that Abram has. And here we see the type of character also in his son Isaac. Because although it happened twice, they took away twice the wells that Isaac dug up. every time it happened, Isaac just packed up and left, and he moved on, and he digged another well, and then they claimed it again, and Isaac packed up and he left again. He left them with the water. He gave them the water, and he left, and he went and he looked for another well, and he dug another well. It happened twice to him. So the third time only, and we'll get to that later on when we get to Genesis 26, it just absolutely proves the seed of the tree of life in both Abraham and Isaac. But what a great role model. Anybody else would have just taken out their semi-automatic Uzis and just shot these Philistines to death. But not Isaac. Isaac just moved on. Okay, so back to Abram and Abimelech, Genesis 21 verse 27 to 34. So Abram took sheep and oxen and gave them unto Abimelech, and both of them made a covenant. And Abram set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech said unto Abram, What does these mean? Why do you put them by themselves? And he said, For these 7 ewe lambs should you take off my hand, that these 7 lambs may be a witness unto me that I have dug this well. So remember, we are not looking physically only. Remember that you need to start seeing the prophetic in all of this. You've got Abimelech representing everybody else, all the other religions. You've got Abraham with the religion of the tree of knowledge, of the tree of life. And here we've got the Philistines and Abimelech representing the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the serpent versus Yahuwah. And we've got 7, which is Yahuwah's number, the perfect number. And we've got female lambs. And the female always represents the bride, and the lamb always represents the bridegroom. And we've got water, the whole thing that Abraham dug this well. And we remember through Abraham, Isaac dug the wells up again. And then we also get to Jacob's well. And then we get to the Samaritan woman. Can you see how all of this is just, beautifully fitting in together? Right? So although Abraham made a covenant, and he gave these 7 lambs to Abimelech as a witness that this is his well, that Abimelech's servants have taken away violently. It didn't really matter in the future, because when Isaac came to claim these wells, the Philistines suddenly didn't remember about this covenant. Therefore, Abram called the place Beersheba, because there they swore, both of them. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. Then Abimelech rose up with his captain, and they returned unto the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a grove in Beersheba. He planted a vineyard, he planted trees, he started putting his roots down. And there he called on the name of Yahuwah, Yahuwah the everlasting God. So beautiful. Yahuwah is the God of Abraham. And here Abimelech had the opportunity again to, together with Abraham, call on the name of Yahuwah. But yet, he went back to the land of the Philistines. So, Abraham sojourned in the Philistines' land many days. These 7 beautiful ewe lambs, female lambs that Abraham gave to Abimelech, they probably gave Abimelech many healthy, strong lambs over the years. They probably grew for Abimelech a nice, strong herd. But by the time of Isaac, nobody thought about that anymore. Or, that they just didn't care about it. And Isaac was not the kind to try and remind them. Because, think about it. I mean, my father, Abraham, signed a treaty. He didn't ask for the treaty. You asked, Philistines, Abimelech. You came to him. You recognized that his God is the Almighty. And you were scared that he was going to turn against you. That's why you came to him like a dog with his tail between his legs, and you asked for a covenant. And Abraham made a covenant unto you, and he gave you a gift of 7 ewe lambs to be a witness of the covenant. But Isaac Every time they came and they took the wells away from him, he packed up and left and went to look for another well. He didn't stand there screaming at them and reminding them of the covenant that their king has made with his father. Unlike us, we want to remind people all the time what they owe us. We want to dwell on the past and relive all the unfair things done unto us. We want to relive it in our heads and in our hearts over and over again. We want retribution. We want recognition. We want revenge. But this is not what we see in the lives of Abram and Isaac. And we will see when we get to Genesis 26, we will see how this forgiving attitude of Isaac, how it ended up being a great blessing to him, just like with his father, with the kind of character that Abraham was living in obedience to his God, made the people around him, the heathen people around him, see that God was with him. And it made the heathen people come to him to sign covenants, although they didn't keep it. His lifestyle, his character was a witness to the heathen people. And we'll see exactly the same thing happening in Isaac's life. But do we see it in our lives? Do we take this example of Abram and Isaac, and do we live our lives this way, so that the heathen people can see how the living waters, the well, although it has been stolen from us, although the living waters and the truth of the living waters has also been stolen from us, and sand has been thrown into these wells. In the last days, we are digging it up again. But is the world seeing our character to be like Abraham standing on the hill praying for Sodom and Gomorrah, and to be like Isaac? It's difficult, I know. Yeshua says, when your enemy whacks you on the one side of your cheek, you turn the other one. Wow, it's difficult. But what happened in the life of Isaac and Abraham, both of them, the people could see that these men were godly men, and they were living in the light and in the truth and in the way of the God of the Garden of Eden. And they came, even after treating them quite badly over so many years, at the end of their lives, the heathen always came to these men to say that we can see God is with you. Can people say that about us today? We are the seed of Abram, Isaac, and Jacob. And if we believe that, not only in the spiritual but in the physical, we should also live in the footsteps of our forefathers, Abram, Isaac, and Jacob. And we'll get to Jacob, and we'll get to Joseph, and we'll learn, we'll see the character. We'll see the character of the Messiah in these guys, each one of them. But not only in the spiritual must we learn from them, we have to learn from them how to live physically as well. With this I end with showing you the example of these men, and not only asking you if you're living like this, asking myself, am I living as the seed of Abram and Isaac and Jacob?